What's up, everybody? Just gonna go live now on Today we're reading from my book, Building the New, A Year of Living Life on Purpose. Welcome if you're just joining me. We're gonna be doing a whole series, a docu-series on this book, Building the New. Let's go live here. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Hope you are having a very holy week. This is a very, very special week, a week of Passover, Easter, and I am going to be hosting a master class, which is very rare, but this is my book. We did hit international bestseller. What's up, Andrea? You're with my girl, Rhonda. You're speaking on stage with her pretty soon. So the book finally got published, and I'm going to be reading chapter 4 in here on high performance habits. I am hosting I say we a lot because I do consider my team to be super helpful. So we are hosting a masterclass, which is very rare. Sometimes I will feel inspired to run pop-up events, and the pop-up events, like in I believe in August, I ran a month of tactical emotional training, which is inside of the book, and I'll be reading in here. So chapter 4 is on high performance habits. I'm running a masterclass. If you're interested in, say, me, just teaching you how to build out your own workouts. And this is, I'm like reading my book. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. You can get it on Amazon. The link is in my bio. So chapter 4, high performance habits, it's the identity work. So this book is really about an identity shift. We have about multiple categories in our life of how you can shift into becoming and developing different personalities, mindsets, body, all the things. You can have an identity shift in your career. You can have an identity shift in your relationship. Maybe when you enter a relationship and when you exit a relationship, you can have an identity shift just because you want to be somebody brand new. That's the most amazing part of being a human being, is we have the ability to shape shift. We have the ability to change. But with that, when you are in the pursuit of becoming somebody else, which requires something called the identity work. So your habits are your identity work. So it says, welcome to the integration phase. The identity work leads to the identity shift that allows you to become the 10.0 version of yourself, or even if you're becoming a +1 higher version of yourself. It's easier than you think. You just need to integrate the habits, behaviors, and daily practices of the becoming. This isn't a fake it until you make it. It's a practice until you believe it. The 4-minute mile. Before going into the next step, I want to tell you the story of Roger Bannister. Back in 1954, people believed it was impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Experts said human body couldn't handle the strain. No one had ever come close to breaking that barrier. But Roger Bannister didn't accept that. He knew deep down that it was possible. So he put in the work, dedicated himself to the challenge, and on May 6, 1954, he ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. He shattered that impossible belief, but here's the wow part. Once he did it, others started to follow. Within just a few weeks, other runners were breaking the 4-minute barrier too. Here's the thing. Sometimes you have to be the one to create the lane where none existed. You have to be the one to show others, and most importantly, yourself, that something that seemed impossible can actually be done, and you can be the one to do it. It doesn't matter if others haven't done it yet. You can be the standard. So that's on page 115. We're going to keep reading for a little bit. Just like Roger Bannister, you have to know that it's possible for you. You have to believe that what you want to achieve is not just a dream. It is possible, and it is safe for you to pursue it. If not you, then who? This is why the daily discipline of training your brain will help you stay focused on achieving your goals. Strategizing and building out the 10 out of 10 life gives you a healthy timeout to clarify what you want to keep your focus as you pursue your dreams. And then I have a little diagram in here. So the chapter before that, and I'll show you guys in here, the chapter before this one, I talk about core values and standards. And then the bottom part, your high performance habits, like you're building this building, your high performance habits are the foundational framework that allow all the other pillars to fill up. And so I'm not going to spill the tea there. We're going to be starting a book club this month, you guys. So make sure you get your book. We're going to start a book club probably mid-April. And in this phase, you'll begin living your life as if you're already the 10.0 version of yourself. How? By building your foundational framework, also known as your high performance habits within the 4 pillars of human performance. 4 pillars of human performance. As humans, our performance is built on the foundation of 4 categories. These areas make up what I call the 4 pillars of human performance. These pillars determine how well we operate and function as human beings: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. I'm reading my book, Building the New for You. This is chapter 4. This book, just to tell you, was built with the understanding of the high performance brain and how our brains operate. So this book was built for you to go to the chapter of what you're needing right now in this season of your life. If you want tactical emotional training, that's chapter 5. If you want to build out high performance habits, that's chapter 4. If you want to know how to build core values and set standards, aka boundaries, and identify the discernment between a boundary and a standard, or a standard and an expectation, that's chapter 3. If you want to get clarity on what you want out of your life because you're not sure, or you've been building a life and you don't feel fulfillment, goals versus visions is chapter 1. Chapter 2 is auditing your life and learning how to audit your life and see where there's a disconnect, to see where and how you can make the changes necessary. That's chapter 2, life audit and building your 10 out of 10 life in 12 subcategories of your life. And then putting it all together, that's chapter 6. So each chapter is meant for you. It's kind of like a plug and play, which is what I'm going to be hosting in my masterclass, but more so from one of the high performance habits, which is your foundation or framework, is your strength training. And as high achievers, it's a full contact sport. It's a full contact sport. And with that, identifying and building and cultivating a healthy relationship around strength training, and strength training specifically for nervous system regulation. For nervous system regulation, the body is going to change because you're now training for optimal performance and mental sharpness and mental clarity and an emotional threshold to take on the other assignments that God is calling you to rise into, because that's leadership. Leadership is, okay, I come into agreement with this assignment. I'm coming to agreement with what God is calling me. I came to agreement of writing this 4-year book. And there's more books coming, by the way. But God is telling me to first steward this one before I start spilling all the other books out, because the other books are practically half written at this point. So getting back to this in page 117, in the earlier chapter, we discussed how you're a human being before you're a human doer. The high performance habits you developed around these 4 pillars are part of your foundational framework for being. If you want to max out your time, focus, and energy levels so you have the endurance to keep up with your dreams, goals, and vision, this chapter is your guide to establishing the foundation from which you can operate in your full potential. In business, every elite company runs on SOPs, standard operating procedures. So, and also KPIs. So I've learned a lot of these vocabulary from the real estate area. SOPs are standard operating procedures, and then your KPIs are just kind of like you're tracking your progress, which I ran last week. Is the Finish What You Started challenge, was more about that tracking your human performance and you showing up for your goals, especially when it doesn't seem like anything's moving. In business, so these are processes that create systems, removing guesswork, driving consistency, and making performance predictable. The high performance habits you develop within your 4 pillars, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, are the SOPs of human functioning. Your life operates off the systems you've built, whether intentionally or by default. If you've created systems that lead to burnout, chaos, or consistency, those are still SOPs, just dysfunctional ones. So if you can achieve big things in chaos and dysfunction, imagine what you can achieve with order and function. And then in here, in this part, I kind of have this little like doodle part where I'm saying the mental SOP, the physical SOP, the emotional SOP, and the spiritual SOP, which are your 4 pillars of human performance. The mental is how you think, focus, and manage thoughts that shape your identity. And in scripture, they say, take every thought captive. And then one of the things that I learned in deliverance training was, when the thoughts are not of God, I silence the voice of the enemy in Jesus' name. And it becomes a muscle and a repetition that after every time you do that, you just kind of shut it down. You shut that system down. Habit is mindset training, mental rehearsal, journaling, belief work, things like that. Physical SOPs, which I teach you how to do that also in chapter 6, which is like putting it all together. And then I have a free resource, video tutorials that my team and I built out. That's TanyaColiver.com/building the new, which is like the book title, Building the New. You can get that for free for yourself. The physical SOPs are how you treat and fuel your body to sustain vitality. So example, exercise, nutrition, sleep, hydration, recovery. The emotional SOPs, how you regulate emotions and respond under pressure. So your habits, emotional training, breath work, regulated and flexible nervous system. Your spiritual SOPs is how you build and sustain a strong, intimate relationship with God, values, and purpose, habits, prayer, meditation, stewardship, time in the Word. So when you run these systems consistently, you create harmony between your inner world and outer worlds, which we talked about in chapter 1 on establishing goals and versus visions. So not because life gets easier, but because you build systems that keep you stable no matter what life throws at you. Building high performance habits is a crucial part of your identity work. It's like training for your vision, getting in the best shape possible for the life you said you wanted. The last thing you ever want is to lack the endurance to steward the very life you've been praying for. The habits you form mirror your beliefs, reflect your values, and define the identity you're shape-shifting into. This section will teach you how to build an extraordinary self so you can have an extraordinary life. Every decision you make shapes your identity, influenced by your core values, standards, environment, inner circles, and the attitude you show up with daily. Remember, every habit you build is either working for you or against you. There's no neutral ground here. And then the identity work, what you appreciate will appreciate. So meaning when you start to put deposits within yourself, then guess what happens? You're putting in stock, you're appreciating. What you appreciate will go up in value. But what you depreciate, what you consistently take withdrawals from, will eventually go down in value. You break down your self-worth. And there's all that other stuff. So building habits that are assets rather than liabilities. So you may have heard that it takes 21 days to form a new habit, but that's only the amount of time that it takes to adjust to a new routine. It takes up to a full year to instill a new habit as your new normal, aka lifestyle. So I'm going to skip a little bit. And then in here, I talk about the high performance, building your foundational framework. When I showed you that diagram of the building, right? If you're building this building, it has to be built based on this foundational framework, meaning you as a human being. You are the foundational framework to everything that you're building. Most of the time, sometimes we see entrepreneurs where they've scaled really well, maybe in business, but that's not all of what life is. There's many components to the fulfillment and the quality and the overall joy and happiness and satisfaction of one's life based on 12 subcategories of life. Business, yes, consumes a lot of us because we spend majority of our time there, but it's not the identity of what you want to get wrapped into. It is an extension of you, your interests, your skill sets. You have to acquire the people that you're around, but it's not your identity. And that's why you see sometimes a lot of people that build these amazing businesses, and when just as much as money can come like this, money can be gone like this. And you see a lot of people go into really bad mental manic states because their identity and their self-worth is so wrapped into their business and what they do that when they lose a business, they've lost themselves. And then a lot of not so great things happen. So ready doesn't exist, decisions do. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be consistent. In this section, I'm going to show you how to build a sleep schedule, food schedule, exercise schedule, which I'm going to do the masterclass on to teach you. I'm going to pull back my old school training, my training and personal training, and I'm going to bring that back to teach you how to build your own workouts, strength training, and how to build it out in a way where you start to really take your training as a space of a training ground. So your workouts as a space of training ground versus it being like a space of vanity or a space of focusing on the body. The body becomes a vehicle, but the training is so much more for the mental, the emotional. It becomes your high performance habit so that you can take on, you go in, come as you are, and you go out a whole nother person, stronger, emotionally stable, mentally sound, mentally sharp, ready to just handle whatever it is that the day has for you, to get back up and to go. And there's just so many things that happen on a physiological level that cannot be bought out or medicated, that happen inside of the body. And then in here, it's I wrote this chapter is all about developing discipline, one of the highest expressions of self-love, self-loyalty, and freedom. This is for the long game play, and at times the identity work can feel like deprivation, punishment, and sacrifice. So instead of deprivation, think of dedication towards your goals, dreams, and the 10 out of 10 life you built out in the earlier chapters. Instead of saying sacrifice, think of self-loyalty to the 10.0 version of yourself. And instead of punishment, think of it as freedom and an act of genuine love towards the version of yourself you deeply want to become. There's a doodle in here that I did that is over the bridge thinking and overcoming that part, which I actually utilized today right now for this social media. And I'm like, it's interesting. What happens is when you have an assignment and you don't show up for it, it puts you more in a negative, an emotional state than when you actually just show up for it. It's like anything, even like the gym, it takes so much effort to get there. But once you're there, it's like, it's just like you're a whole different person. So over the bridge thinking is when you think, feel, and picture yourself as if you've already crossed the finish line. You imagine that project complete with excellence. You feel the satisfaction of becoming the person you've worked for. You tap into the emotional experience of the result before you physically have it. And then let's get over. I'm skipping a little bit in this chapter. This book is just so good, you guys. You're gonna love it. It's just spent a lot of time getting it down so it's a smooth read for you. Let's go into the exercise part. All right, this is page 143, building your high performance exercise schedule. Exercise becomes a meditation and movement. In this section, we're going to build your exercise schedule and create a toolbox you can cycle through anytime. So I'm going to be teaching you in the masterclass how to build out an exercise toolbox, teaching you muscle groups, muscle group breakdowns to give you structure, how to plug and play different movement patterns. By definition, exercise is any activity required physical effort that is planned and structured to improve or maintain physical fitness, such as strength, endurance, or flexibility. It isn't just about how you build your 10.0 body. It's a power tool that clears mental clutter, reduces anxiety and depression, interrupts negative thinking, grounds your emotions, sharpens your mindset, and helps you feel physically stronger, more confident, and more in control of your life. In this section, we're going to build your exercise schedule and create a toolbox you can cycle through anytime. That's how you create healthy, reliable relationship with exercise. And then in here, you'll always feel better mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically when you finish exercising. No pill or supplement can replicate the natural serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, oxytocin, and cortisol regulating hormones your body releases through movement. Remember this: accept your starting point and the season you're currently in right now, and let's build from there. You're playing the long game, and this section is about building your foundation, a forever game plan. One of the best places to start is by going back to your childhood and exploring the sports and activities you naturally gravitated towards, which we're going to like break down in there. And then it's just, yeah, there's a lot in here. Love it. And then we get into the tactical part, which is cool because I teach you how to like kind of build your toolbox here. And then handling your own objections. So this is also, there's always a solution, always a way around your limitations and restrictions. That's the what can I do mindset you want to cultivate if you're embodying a winner's attitude. What I've come across from working with hundreds of clients and identifying common behavioral patterns is that the majority of people don't neglect exercise because they're too busy. They neglect it because they feel guilty and afraid their obligations won't get done if they take time to take care of themselves. So ask yourself, what's getting in the way of you being consistent and following through with your exercise schedule? Identifying the obstacles that disrupt your progress is crucial because once you see them clearly, you can overcome those setbacks in the fastest and most efficient way possible. And then in here, you're going to come up with like writing an excuse list. What's up, Jesse? I'm reading High Performance Habits in chapter 4. And also letting you guys know we have the masterclass coming up to build your own strength training workouts for nervous system regulation and just education on how to put all that together. So there's just a lot more in here. This book is just so good. You're absolutely going to love it. Remember, this book was created as a plug and play. So if you're wanting and needing a specific chapter in here, you can just jump around to a chapter. And the Amazon link for the book is on Amazon. You can get that hardcover, paperback, Kindle. And we have the masterclass. We're going to have it pushed back to next week because we have Easter this week. It's going to be next Sunday. So if you want in, just send me a message. And don't you stress, you guys. It's going to be after church. And we're going to prepare you for Monday. But if you prefer Friday, I'm open to training on a Friday too. So I know you're going to love this. Make sure you go get your book. It's on Amazon. If you're interested in building out your own workout, strength training for nervous system, you can send me a message. I'm only taking on 10 people. So far, I have several people already signed up. So I have a few more spots open. Send me a DM, masterclass, and I'll be happy to lock you in for next week. All right. Bye, you guys. Have a blessed day, and I will